All right, so welcome to the podcast. I'm Harrison Carrouth, and I'm here today with
Levi Griffin.
Levi Griffin. And so we wanted to start a podcast where we talk about a lot of different issues of the day from a Gen Z perspective.
Yes, definitely.
I'm here at the University of Arkansas. I'm a political science student. This is my first semester, and I kind of have say the university viewpoint of a lot of things, and I see the way a lot of students in the university think about many of the issues plaguing our world today. And then my companion here.
Yep. I come from break your back side of the story. I see most of the world from the workforce perspective. I'm already kind of into, I got to pay my taxes by a certain time, and you kind of see how your money's coming in. And a lot of Gen Z haven't even got to that point yet. And so I think that's when a lot of stuff's going to change, is when they see that real world hit them in the face. They're like, man, the world has hit us in the face, and they've fallen out on us, you know what I mean? And so I hear a lot of guys at work, and they're complaining about stuff, and it's from their perspective. But I really feel like we're coming from a perspective. I hear a lot of people Gen X, our parents, and they have Joe Rogan, all those guys. They talk about our generation and they look at statistics and where we're at, but it's like they don't really get to see it. And I feel like we're coming from seeing it, and I feel like we're going to be going and kind of giving our progression and how it's going to look in the future for our country and our world as a whole.
There's a big, I've seen there's a big divide generationally recently between, say, the baby boomers, Gen Xers, and then Gen Z, on a myriad of issues, but probably most prominently the issue of the war over in Gaza with the support of Israel. Younger people tend to be extremely or far much more against the U.S. support of Israel as
because they're not going to send the boomers to go fight that war.
Oh yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
That is a part of it, but I think a lot of it too, from what I've been seeing, is you think about it. So think about the people above the age of 60, right? They're not flipping through TikTok, right? We got all these young people on TikTok getting their information that way. They're not watching cable news network.
No.
So the cable news
which is all owned by the same people.
Exactly. So think about Fox News and CNN. Incredibly diverse, might say advantageous towards each other on culture issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about economics, right?
Yeah. When it comes to making that money.
Exactly. They're both financed by the same people, right? All about the starting wars to get the military-industrial complex going, right? So these old people are being fed the same narrative by both of these things, and they're saying, okay, we need to fund Israel. And I mean, you may agree with that for different reasons, but they're saying it for economic reasons. And the old people are eating it up, not because they agree with the economic, or they even know of the economic reasons behind this, their donors, or because of that. They're being pushed the narrative, oh, we need to do that, and they're being fed this corporate narrative, and they don't see the other, while people on TikTok, this has been a big argument for TikTok, is younger people specifically, being able to see real-time footage from the war as it's coming in, and being really disgusted as to what's being taken place with our tax dollars. Our tax dollars being used to kill people. You could say yes, terrorists too, but also thousands and thousands of civilians.
Exactly.
Especially so today's what? April 30th.
Yeah.
We've just done tax day. Yeah. So what just happened? We got a bunch of tax dollars sent in, and then we're sending
they do immediately.
$61 billion to Ukraine, or
6, I think, is going to Ukraine, and 2 or something. Maybe
61, I think, $1 billion to Ukraine. There's $14 billion to Israel, and then $9 billion to Taiwan. I will never see a $1 billion in my life.
No, neither will they.
Not even. I think the spending budget of Little Rock, Arkansas, for 1 year is $313 million, and we're just sending $9 billion.
We don't even have that money. We've been in a debt that since like forever, and they keep increasing the debt wall. Like, well, we can print more money, and that's why people are trying to get out of our currency. They're trying to go to the BRICS nations currency and start a new global currency. Bitcoin was kind of like trying to start its own like AI currency, kind of like an establishment of it to set that up and see if it would work, and it kind of did, but it kind of failed too because there just wasn't enough stuff to rely on it. And that's the issue. Ever since we got off the gold standard anyways, when our money's not backed by anything, it's just paper, and your government gives it. Like when we learned that in economics class, I was in class, and they're like, I'm like, what's our money backed by? And they're like, what the government tells you it's backed by. And I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, no, it's like the value of a $5 bill is the value of a $5 bill because this government guy says, oh, dude, that's a $5 bill, and that's what you can spend in the store. And when the minimum wage raises up and people are like, oh, great. It's like, dude, it's the same value as it's always been. And then prices are going up, not even to meet it, and it's not backed by anything. And all this crap we have is literally worthless in that stuff. You know what I mean?
I got you. It's interesting you bring up the gold standard because I think a lot of Americans don't even think about that. Yeah. You said, do you remember what grade that was brought up in?
That was, dude, 9th grade.
9th grade, because I took civics class?
Because I took AP civics so I could get like my get it done, so I didn't have to do it in high school. And I did that, and it was so funny because it's a boomer, like an old lady, and she's telling me that, and I'm like, "Are you insane?" She goes, "No, this is just how it is." And I'm like, "Dude, that's bullcrap." Like if George Washington heard that, he's like, "Wait, what are you talking about, man? That makes no sense. Like it's just paper."
Yeah, like up until I think it was like 1820, I believe we backed everything and Fort Knox gold. But so now instead of gold backing dollars, you could say like the argument against that is like the U.S. economy just outgrew the amount of gold that we had, so we couldn't actually back it. But so what is theoretically the U.S. dollar backed by? And I think that it's backed by U.S. weapons.
Yeah.
You see, okay, so we have this much money, and then the money is only as good as what the government values it at. Yeah. But the government doesn't really have any inherent power by itself. It's the guns that the government controls, the missiles and stuff. So us being the major superpower has our money hold inherent value. That's kind of like how it is. And that brings an interesting thing into the terms of globalization because ever since the world shifted from the British pound to the US dollar as the global currency, there's immediately after that happened, there's been all these other countries trying to introduce other ways of paying for their stuff to not rely on the US dollar as a hegemon, which is what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I would say that the US dollar is backed by labor. I would say because they're paying us, it's like our value is us. It's kind of, if you think about it, if you go too crazy about it, it's like if you've seen The Matrix, they're batteries. Well, we're not batteries, but you go work a 9-to-5 job carrying rebar to build construction for their Walmarts and their buildings and their Navy ships, and they're paying you in dollars, and you're like, well, what's backing that dollar? It's like your energy. Your energy's backing that dollar. Huh. If you look at it in kind of that perspective, it's like if you put like, well, how much energy do you have in a day? And they're like, okay, well, how much worth is that to us? We'll pay you that amount. And then you give us the money back, with food and resources, and we cycle through it through your energy and stuff. And I kind of feel like it's in that way, which is why it kind of sucks. I don't know. I just thought of that, and I was like,
that's an interesting.
It's a weird point.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I'm interested to hear what you have to think about. So, are you aware of the massive wealth disparity in the country as to how much wealth the extreme rich class owns? Yeah.
Well, I would even, so like my family, we have business, and that's the American dream is to own something, physical, that you can, generational wealth, because the whole, ornate thing for fulfillment, if you're not if you're not on a religious standpoint, most things is you're born in this world to have kids and pass on prosperity to your children, because it's isn't that the greatest thing to do, you know, is like to build your family up. Isn't that what kingdoms were built over? Is like a community of people. It's like we're gonna keep prospering. That's like the human dream. And so like my family, you know, it's a business, and we're doing fine because we have business that, you know, brings money in. But like I've seen videos, it's like in today's society, to even be like middle class is to make like 100,000 or something, like to just be middle. Mm-hmm. Which we're blessed, to be honest, to live in Arkansas.
Oh, for sure.
And to say that's kind of like living in the Mexico of America, but a nice one. It's like because it's cheap, you know, and we don't have as much. It's not as bad because like I see all this stuff happening in these other states, and I'm like, dude, you know, that really sucks. In Arkansas, you can feel a little bit of it, but Arkansas, it's like if you're making $100,000 a year, dude, you're basically you're hitting it off, dude. You're set.
Yeah, I know a lot of. I was actually had the opportunity to meet some linemen, guys that work on like telephone poles and stuff, and their gig. It's kind of funny. They live in Little Rock, I think. But they work for a company, but what they do is they go out and they work on the West Coast, like California during the summers.
Get that
like
higher
$100,000 just over the summer. Like $100,000 in one summer, like 6 months.
Yep.
And they come back and they're just chilling.
They're just chilling,
and they can work whenever they want, which is like that just shows like just how much less a dollar will go over there. Yeah. How much further it will go over. Like a lot of people think like, okay, Arkansas, we're kind of close to like Mississippi in like the cost of living, and okay, we have a lot. That's because we have a lot of poverty, but it's a kind of like a good thing here. It's
it is
a good thing in disguise because we have a pretty high minimum wage for the state. I mean for the nation, it's like what, $11.50. Yeah, and the federal minimum's $7.25. I couldn't imagine making $7 in this economy with inflation everything.
Which the thing that kind of ticks me off is, which I always thought about doing that too, like going like California or something and work. Like don't have a house there because you make that much money. You're basically living in Arkansas. You know, you're living in a little room in a shack with that much money. But like me and my buddy were like, dude, you can go work like on oil rigs for like a summer and come back and be set up. Like I know guys that do that, and that's great. But the people that piss me off is these California people where they've made a lot of this money and they're like, oh, it's too expensive here, and then they move immediately to Arkansas and they're like, wow, 3-bedroom house. That's great. And everyone that's lived in Arkansas and loves Arkansas and we're born here. Like I've talked to like this one dude pulled up one time I was doing something. He pulled up in a really nice Corvette. And I was like, man, what do you do? He's like, yeah, dude, I used to live in California and I did a little bit of real estate and I just sold it all and I bought me $1 million house here and bought these Corvettes. And I'm over here like, man, that's nice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm like, it kind of irks you because it's almost unfair because, you know, being in this society, it's great because it's not so bad for us. But people coming from like a worse state, but in like they make more money because they have to have more money to live in that state, it's almost weird that they can come here and use it. Because our country almost feels like it's divided into not like states, but like sections nowadays. Like we're like, we got like, you know what I mean? Like east, south, north, you know, west, midwest, all that. And so it's like, it almost feels like, because I hear a lot of people talk about like living in England and they talk about like coming to America. They're like, dude, you know, because they talk about it's like Americans don't even go on vacation. They don't even leave the country. It's like, dude, our country is like 30 of yours. You know what I mean? It's like, it's Denmark and all those, you know, you can drive there. It's like driving to Texas to California. And so we're one country, but we're kind of split up into, I would say, like almost little countries. And it's weird because I can't go from here to Europe and I'm going to be buying a really nice house, you know? But since you're in America, and it's weird because we're inside it and we use the same cash value, but they're making more in a summer over there, they can come here and buy our crap, you know? It almost seems unfair, you know? Yeah. But
it is an interesting thing because you think about it, like more money does not mean a better society.
Exactly.
Which is really interesting because like a lot of what stems out in California is the big it's a lot of it is like the Hollywood, like LA area where you have all these people from Silicon Valley, all these actors making millions or billions of dollars, so they can afford whatever. And then the actual like working class of California gets left behind because they can't. Okay, so they build all of these super expensive houses, but the average person in California, they can't afford that. Yeah. So what you have is
Those homeless people on the street, those are minimum wage people.
Yeah.
They bought that tent,
actually,
for real.
So I just saw in California, Gavin Newsom, he raised the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour.
Woo!
Except for Panera Bread. Because his biggest donor has a massive stake in Panera Bread.
Okay.
So Panera Bread still has to pay like whatever the minimum wage of California is, which is probably like 16 or something.
Yeah.
But okay, that was just a tangent.
That's funny though. That is funny. It's like,
well,
who's gonna work at Panera now, dude?
It's just wild. Like, can you imagine? Like, you pass this legislation, but you make such a cookie cutter hole for your donor, and you don't even try to hide it. You're like,
well, that's what most of these politicians are, anyways. It's all about just like piggybacking off each other. I mean, most politicians don't even most politicians hop in, like Joe Biden, Obama, those dudes. They come in with like no money. They come out of college, they do all their little politician crap, kiss who's ever butt they gotta kiss, suck whatever they gotta suck, some weird crap, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to get into that, but there's some dark things going on. Pray the whatever owl they got to. I don't know, bro. But they go, they come out of college, they have no money, then they go for 4 years and they own 4 houses. They own like 1 in 4 and whatever. Because they're just going in for the money. And I mean, that's what Ukraine is. It's just a laundering system. It's a big laundering. Because like all that, they send this whole thing, and that's when you know that most of the politics, it is a uni party now, because it's like yeah, abortion, we disagree with that. They have to have that argument because our whole world's based on consumerism and entertainment. And so what the big media corporation for boomers and stuff, all it is entertainment. It's like when the news started doing those car chases because no one was watching the news. They're like, how do we make this more entertaining? And they made a bit on it. It's Anchorman. You see Anchorman. They're like, and he's going off, and he's like, in this, and he's getting super hyped for this car chase because he's trying to add views to their media. It's like when everyone started, like our generation and a little bit older than us, they're like, man, I don't want to watch the news anymore. Like, all I hear is this, that, nothing changes. My life stays the same. Whoever gets impacted, like nothing's happening. So they quit watching, and the Republicans and Democrats like, dude, we ain't arguing enough. So they argue. But when it comes to money put back in their pocket, they're like, when they did that vote, there's only like 40 people that said no out of the whole House. And isn't there like 400 or something? 500?
Yeah, in the House, it's 435.
Yeah, and only, dude, and you think of that, you're like, where's our country at?
Yeah.
40 people are like, we don't want to go to war. And that's when it's scary as Generation Z. You're over here like, I don't want to go to war.
Yeah.
They don't give a crap.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like, if we go in all-out war, people don't realize America is at, when you come in the body count of war, if we go into a war with Russia or Iran, because Iran, if it starts fighting, Russia's going to back Iran because they hate us, and if we're supporting Israel, they're going to, support Iran back. And then China's going to be like, well, this is a moment, take Taiwan, all the crap they've ever wanted, and that's going to be a global mass war. And if they don't want to go nuclear, because if they go nuclear, it's like, well, we won't have anything, you know what I mean? And which if they do that, honestly, I'd be like, finally, it's done, But if they don't do that, they don't need bodies. In America, we have the most, biggest missiles, biggest ships. But in recruiting average, we're the lowest, like in some of the places right now. And 70% of our recruitments are not even in shape to fight.
Yeah.
They're unathletic.
Or even active duty.
Exactly, or active duty.
Yeah.
Exactly, because they're just sitting, most people just sit in a computer room because they're, that's how America fights. We got all this stuff. But if there's a boots on the ground war, missiles can't kill everybody on the boots on the ground. You have to fight boots on the ground. Especially China. I mean, they're like ants.
Mm-hmm. I heard about it. This is just kind of how it's always been. But what takes territory in a war, it's not, you can nuke them, but that's not going to take the land. You need actual infantry assaults and artillery barrages.
You got to have someone to put down the flag.
Soldiers with guns
exactly.
and massive artillery shells clearing out the area. But so we don't have that big. No. Our number. We got a big army.
We do.
Not relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So you think about, we got 360 million people.
Yeah.
We got about 1 million active personnel. Mm-hmm. That's less than 1% of the country in the armed services, which is hardly anything.
Yeah.
And then you think about Russia's getting its industry going.
Yeah.
It's
Russia's on a freaking
it's cooking
industrial age of their own, dude. Yeah.
I think that might have been one of the big things, because if Putin was going in And he was like, all right, I'm going to win. So if he went in and he won, boom, he wins. Okay, that's a cool thing. But if he gets stuck, he still wins because he gets to start up his war machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just pumping money out, right?
Yeah.
So
giving jobs to people,
And that's been a massive... I think young people are waking up because a lot of people... I mean, obviously not the Congress, but like young people in the country are saying, okay, so we're throwing billions of dollars at Ukraine, but Russia's a country and they are so much bigger and they're winning this war.
Oh, they won.
Where's the end game? Like if we keep supplying Ukraine just enough for them to sustain themselves, we're just throwing billions and billions of dollars.
Exactly.
And that's, it's just going through the military-industrial complex, and that's why they're doing it. But to the American people, we're seeing our tax dollars going away, and we're like, okay, you're just showing us how blatantly corrupt you are.
Yeah.
And we're waking
right in our face.
It's an amazing thing for people to be like seeing that, which is awesome.
And it's awesome.
But at the same time, it's just so sad to see like that's happening, and then what do we do about it?
Well, that's what, I mean, as you're young, and that's what every generation's always had problems with in any time of society, like revolutions, wars, civil wars, great wars and all that. Our generation, the younger guys, 20 to 30, they're like, what do we even do? We're just people. But it's like this right here, while you're at, like right now, we're in info war. And you start to, for real, I mean, that's,
I got you.
You know what I mean? So it's like me and you talk, and it's like we've heard, we're like, oh, we're on the same wavelength. We're kind of thinking the same thing. We're seeing this. And you think everyone else is seeing it. But you start, you talk to kids that are your age, and they're kind of awakening to some little things, but they're not like, they're like, what are you talking about, dude? They still kind of think like we're in a society for, to better us, because they haven't been slapped in the face. But you know what I mean? When they hand a gun in your, that's what I'm saying. When they give you that tax thing, they slap a rifle in your hand and say, you got it, boy. It's going to slap you in the face. And you're like, holy crap, what is my country, And I think we're in like, there's going to be a point, and it may be a few years, the take point, but we're in this part where we're like in the stepping stones of a renaissance or a revolution. Because our country is like, we got to fix the country. We can't be sending money to these countries. People are coming across our border and invading us, now it's like something like for every 7 or 10 American citizens, there's 2 or 3 or 5 like illegals, and it's like they're almost outweighing our citizenship, and then half or more than half of our citizenship are people that don't even love the country. So they're an invasion of being born in. They're already been corrupt in their mind. They're already like, I don't even like this country. So when these people go, they're like, yeah, your country sucks. Let's take it. They're gonna be like, you know what, you should do that. Free Palestine, all that crap. All those people that are spouting all this BS. I'm like, dude, you guys are all bought into everything, and I don't support either one. I don't support Palestine. I like Israel. Since I'm a Christian, I'm like, Israel's God's people, but what they're doing, it is a genocide of sort. They're trying to get rid of these people, and you're like, okay, dude, I don't really know what to say about that. It's
with
bad.
our tax dollars, man.
Yeah, with our money, and it's like, well, that's blood money, man. You know what I mean?
Money.
And hopefully don't come back, but I guess that's why they launder it, so it's clean.
That's a good realization. Like, I was reading the book of Judges the other night, and I think a lot of, the culture wars play off of this a lot, and it's true. Mm-hmm. So Israel, the country, the nation, the new one, reformed 1948, God's people, Jews, right? They got a nation state. They hadn't had a nation state in a while since, and they got one because of the Holocaust, and we had a lot of powerful Jewish voices in the United States talking to President Eisenhower back in the 40s and 50s, and they got Israel to reform into a nation state. So God's people got a big Christian portion of the United States, and we're called to help out God's people if we're Christians.
I'm always going to be on the Jews. I'm going to be like, I'm not angry at them, because anyone in history that's angry at the Jews they kind of get hit in the face.
That is kind of like a thing that's been played at, though. So there is like, there's been a big thing in the media that I've seen, like corporate media, like CNN, MSNBC, Fox, even. So like a lot of what has been criticism of the Israeli government is just always construed as anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Oh, like Could they not use our tax dollars in this way?
You're a Nazi.
You're a Nazi.
You're
exactly.
a Nazi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, dude, I'm kind of like an American.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just concerned about where my money's going. But going off of that, so in the book of Judges, right, it opens with giving a history of the Israeli state back before Jesus came, obviously.
Way back when.
Way back when, yeah. And it's a few times of like it's just a good illustration.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens throughout the Bible.
Yeah.
But the Israeli people, they're God's people, yes. But they're still people. And they do wicked things. Yeah. And sometimes they fall out of favor with God. I think it was like chapter 5 or something. The Israeli people, they had been intermarrying with the nations around them. Yeah. And they had been getting influenced by all these other places. They started worshiping other gods. Yep. And then God...
That always ends up bad.
Yeah. He used the nations around them, and he said, I'm going to destroy you through these nations.
Like a cleansing.
And this is literally like... This has happened throughout history multiple times. They've been enslaved by the Babylonians. They've been taken by the Assyrians or whoever.
Persians, I guess.
The Persians, yeah.
That's what Esther is, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar and Xerxes and all that. Yeah, those dudes. But we're all for supporting Israel as God's people, but we shouldn't blindly follow them. We should still be able to criticize their actions. Yeah. Like, hey, okay, what if you have a wicked government that are doing ungodly things? Exactly. Like, that's where the disconnect is.
Yeah, that's how I am. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're Israel, they can do nothing bad. It's like, as we've seen in history, they have. And God's punished them for that. You know what I mean? And which is why I'm also like Christian too, is because I'm like, thank God to the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ, because it's like, forgive me, Lord, I am a sinner, you know? And, these dudes are like, we got to cleanse this place because they think that, these dudes they're the ones that are, polluting their cities and stuff. Which, I mean, a lot of this could be happening. It's like, you look at stuff and it's like dark in history, but like a lot of this stuff could be happening in accordance to the Bible, you know what I mean? Like because if they get rid of, if they're trying to get rid of like the Muslims and stuff inside of the Jewish temples, then the Jews can have their main temple that they can go in now that the Muslims weren't let them go in, And so then they can try to do, with all the red heifer stuff. Have you seen that crap?
Nah.
So the red, so in history, when they would build a temple, because in the Bible, like before Jesus comes back, they have to build that third temple.
Yeah.
So before they built any temple, I think like David and those dudes, they get a red heifer. And these red heifers are like the most...
Like a physical cow?
Yes. And their fur's red. And there's a lot of, they had to be raised a certain way. They couldn't be fed a certain food. They can't be rode on. Like they can't be, no one could like lay it on them and stuff. Like all these rules. And so the last one that was killed was, I think when David, not David. I don't remember. But, cause there's too many names. But the last guy that built like the second temple and all that stuff, they killed that thing. And it was thousands of years ago. And for these rabbis and stuff, they want to build the third temple. They're ready to build it right now. But they have to have that red heifer. And so they got 5 from Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'd never heard
of that. So, yeah, you need to look
this
this up because I'm like, okay. They got 5 from Texas, sent them over to Israel. And they have 3 left because as they've gotten older, they've been like, okay, they're imperfect. But these 3 are like some of the perfect like specimens of a red heifer. And they're thinking one of these will work. And there's so many crazy things that have like had to time this to work. Like they had to find when they burn these red heifers back in history, they would burn them, and after they sacrificed them, they put them in a jar, and it had to be this jar with the old red heifers to build the old temples. That jar was lost. They found it with like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, okay, you know what I mean? That's when I'm like, the Bible. When people say the Bible's not factual and there's too many cross points, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You have to believe it, you know what I mean? And so these people, if this war, if there's a war and they get rid of all of this control, or they just get more freedom and they kill one of those red heifers, they'll build that third temple. And I mean, that's biblical prophecy. I mean, we're in the last days.
I mean, we've had the Reformation of Israel.
Exactly.
Israel
and that was supposed to,
exactly.
and that's a biblical thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy. I'm just over here like, it would if they built that temple in my lifetime, I'd be like, okay, this is pretty cool, you know? Yeah. I'm not saying Jesus is coming back right after that, but I'm just saying that's a Bible. That's a Bible thing.
We're moving toward Revelation.
Dude, I know, dude.
I think it's so cool. Like one of my favorite prophecies in the book of Revelation is the Wailing Wall, which is in Jerusalem, also known as the West Wall.
Don't they pray? Do they pray that one?
Yeah, they go to it for something. I don't know what for, but it says in the book of Revelation there will be two prophets that go and they're at the West Wall, but they'll get killed, and the whole world will watch. And back in like biblical times, and then even up through like the 1800s, people are like, how can the whole world watch?
Yeah.
When two people, but
now we're at a point where it's like we could have.
You got a screen everywhere. It's gonna be broadcast.
It's like crazy.
It's just.
Which they said, people theorize those are the two witnesses you're talking about, right?
I think so. I think there were two. It's two prophets.
Yeah, and a lot of people theorize that it's going to be Elijah come back, and it's going to be because Elijah. There's like two people in the Bible that didn't die; they just got taken from.
Oh yeah.
And Enoch was one of them, and Elijah was like the other. They say.
I know Elijah got taken up, right?
He just got taken up, and so they think when these witnesses come back, they're going to be two people from the Bible and crap.
Oh, okay.
If Elijah comes back, I'm like, okay. This dude's not playing.
Okay.
You want to watch this?
He was like,
where's your God at, dude? Yeah. Where's your God at? Is he sleeping? Elijah's over here like, bro, and he's like, your God's asleep now, boy. Bow.
What book is that in?
I don't know. I just love that story, bro. I love Elijah.
Yeah, he's like, all right, let me show you something cool.
Yeah, well, I like how it doesn't happen. It's like such a movie situation where everyone's like, he's like, where's your God at? Oh, is he sleeping? They're making fun of it, and then he's like, skadoosh, and he's like, oh, dude. I've had times in my life where I just feel like an Elijah moment. There was one I was in theater, and this girl was like, they couldn't open something, and they're like, Levi, come open with your big muscles, and I twisted and opened it, and I was like, that's the power of my God, and she's like. She's like, my God's gay, and I was like, and I go, and your God couldn't open that or whatever, and I walked away, and the girl was like, wow. Like that, dude. There's only one God, dude. It's so I love crap like that, dude. Old Testament, I love the Old Testament, dude.
It is good. It's just so good. It is good to I had a friend I met at basic training, and I just never and I live in sort of South Arkansas, the Hot Spring. Grew up in Hot Springs.
Hot Springs, nice, dude.
There's
you live 1 hour away from me.
Yeah, okay. Cabot. Yep. Yeah. Panthers, right?
Yeah, go Panthers now.
Red ones.
Yeah.
Anywho, we just don't have a big Catholic presence down there, so I'd never really interacted or had any friends that were Catholic. They were all just straight
Which is
Baptist.
weird because a lot of Italians went to Hot Springs back in the day.
Which is true, yeah. We got Capone and stuff.
It's pretty sick. Spring training was there.
I mean, there's a nice big Catholic church down there, but it's all old.
Yeah,
you know how Hot Springs is. It's
Baptists get out of here, Catholics.
Exactly, and which is bad stereotype.
But it's funny though. I'm
funny.
Baptist. I get to say it.
Yeah, you get to say it.
I get to make fun of Baptists.
Yeah, we have black people at our church.
Dude, it's okay.
Guys, but
that was our Reformation.
One of my friends that I met at basic training. Yeah. He mentioned something that I thought was super cool. He talked about he's Catholic. He's talking about how Catholics believe in stuff, and I think this gets lost a lot in more Protestant areas. Is preaching the Old Testament. Yeah. Because Jesus is showing the loving side of God, but the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
You're getting on a thing right here.
I'm getting on a thing because if you just look at the loving side, which is, yes, that's 100% God, but at the same time, if you only see the loving side of God, it's gonna be like a parent that gives you everything. You're gonna take advantage of that. If you fear God, he's gonna smite me, man.
God-fearing man.
Be a God-fearing man. Then you start my actions have consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Which is a whole nother
thing. Dude, when I sin, I'm always like, God, have mercy on me, forgive me for my sin, but also don't allow my consequences to be too, astron, because I fear that, dude. Because, that's why your parents used to be like, why do I spank you? And you'd be like, because you hate me, and so because I love you, and you didn't get that as a kid. And that's why I'm like, people that, I'm not spanking my kids. I'm like, you're just teaching them that, it's like, oh, we can just hold each other, and that's how you learn, go sit in a corner. It's like, sometimes you got to touch the fire, to understand that it's hot.
And you know what we can take into this? This brings me straight back to Israel.
Dude.
Is because we are acting like Israel's God. We're saying,
yeah,
you can do whatever, and we are not going to say anything about it.
Yeah.
You can go, you can do whatever. We're going to keep giving you money.
Yeah.
We're having a problem with what you do, but we're going to keep giving you money because we love you, right?
For real.
Sure, we love them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But because we love them, we should be like, hey,
you got to hold them
too far.
Exactly. Even in the New Testament it says that. Even in the New Testament, it's like, don't judge others, but it's like, if someone in your church is doing something, you got to come to him straight up and be like, Paul did that. That's every book of Paul does. He's like, Ephesians, you ain't, all these, all that crap. He's like, y'all guys are kind of going, and we got to change that. And I get into that too, because, when we go to the church, we both go to the BCM and stuff like that. A lot of these kids, I get kind of angry sometimes, because sometimes I kind of go on a rant. And I get passionate about something, and they think I'm like hating on somebody, but I'm not hating on people. It's just like in a world where there's a whole culture of like attacking innocence, like children with all this stuff with like, teaching like sexual ed in like early ages, and like, oh, what do you want to be, which is like destroys empires. That's how the Roman Empire fell. But you know what I mean? Every man, Roman Empire. We have to mention the Roman Empire every day because we're a man. But
we could talk about that.
Exactly. That'd be another episode. That'll be coming soon. But like in the BCM, I start like going off on something like, Levi, you gotta love. And I go, I know I love them, but I hate the sin. And then who do I love more? You know what I mean? I know we can't love one or two more, but it's like, do I stand idly by when there's like a child or something? It's like in a house, and like, let's say you have a family, you have a wife and a kid, and someone breaks in your house. And do you just go, you're like, I love them, and you let them rape your wife, kill your kids in front of you? Oh, I'm a martyr, I did that because I love God. It's like, no, you're not. You're weak. Because people say, they're like, no, dude, that's love. But it's like, violence isn't always a sin. You know what I mean? People get it wrong. They you know what I mean? It's like, violence isn't a sin. In response to violence, to act back with violence is not a sin. That is protection. That is what you are to be a man. That is what is. Even Peter had a sword when the Romans came, and Peter was ready to fight. And what Peter did wasn't even like a sinful action because he loved Jesus so much. But Jesus just was like, no, Peter, this has to happen. He didn't even like rebuke Peter. He just said, no. And he put the ear back on the guard, and was like, no, this has to happen. It wasn't even saying, like, that's not a part in the Bible saying like, no, don't draw your sword. Sometimes you draw your sword. Sometimes you trade your cloak for a sword. And that's in the New Testament.
That is in the New Testament.
And that's what irks me sometimes with like Protestants and stuff, And that's why I'm a Protestant, but I listen to like a lot of Orthodox, like Roman Orthodox. Bishop Murray, who was stabbed recently over in freaking...
I saw that, yeah.
Dude, I mean, he's the most loving guy that you can get, because that dude just prayed for him, but like...
Guy with an eye patch on?
Yeah, dude, he's crazy, bro. He's a pirate.
Very cool. But that goes on...
You know what I mean?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that I think can be applied to our Congress. I hope... All right. Hear me out. I hope they listen to this, because this is a good analogy, I think. So...
Someone's going to hear it.
Yeah, in the
book
the
FBI agent listening.
It might just be me listening to it again, but I'm going to hear it again. I don't need to hear this. But, in the New Testament, so Jesus going through Jerusalem, and he's going to the temple, and he sees the temple is full of merchants selling things.
I was going to mention that.
In the temple, yeah.
Hit me up.
And so people are conducting business in the house of the Lord, yeah. So Jesus, what does he do? He goes and makes a weapon. He creates a whip, and he goes in there, and he clears out that. He is violent.
Yeah.
But it's a righteous violence. Yeah. He's defending his house. He's defending the house of his father because it has been corrupted. Yeah. It has been used for a place of business, selling stuff. And I think about that in Congress. Like, all right, you are supposed to be our governing body. Yeah. And you have created this. You are trading stocks. You're getting rich off of all these things. Like
in
all
our
the
house,
In our government body, you're supposed to be leading these people. Yeah. But you're just making yourself rich. Yep. while we're getting poor.
Yeah, exactly. And what the government doesn't realize, what they've gone too far from, is when the Founding Fathers made this country, it's we the people, of the people. We are the government. You know, we put you in your status. And when people think, they're like, no, we're the government. We control them. That's what they want. But we got to come together and realize, no, we are the government. You know? And I've had people tell me, you know, that Christians, some Protestants, some Assembly of God people one time, I was goofing off and they're like, whoa, you know, Levi, that's a, you know, you got to follow the rules and all this and that, because do unto Caesar what is Caesar. And I told him, and I said, you see who's on our dollar bill? And he's like, who? And I'm like, George Washington. And I was like, what'd he say? It's like, we the people, one nation under God. We are the government. We are Caesar. And the kid was like, and I was like, bro, you know what I mean?
You know what? All right. I think that was a good conversation. I think we should start wrapping it up here. But that was a good episode. I can't wait to see what we get up to next.
See y'all guys next time.